Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales and boundless imagination come to life. Enjoy the story and don't forget to subscribe. The relentless Arizona sun hammered down on the sun-baked streets of Tucson, a heat that Reese felt even through the thick walls of the rusty Spur saloon. He wiped down the counter, the same well-worn motion he'd repeated countless times, the scent of stale beer and disinfectant a constant backdrop to his life. The jukebox in the corner crooned a mournful country tune, its melody as familiar as the cracks in the bar's aged wooden surface. "Reese, another bud, if you please," called out a gravelly voice from a stool near the back. "Coming right up, Benny," Reese replied, grabbing a frosty mug. As he filled it, his gaze drifted towards the flickering television mounted above the liquor shelf. A news report droned on about the launch of a new satellite, promising unprecedented views of distant galaxies. For a moment, Reese imagined himself light years away, adrift among the stars, anything but stuck in this dusty, predictable existence. Earth to Reese. "You gonna serve that beer, or just let it sit there?" Benny's voice pulled him back to reality. "Sorry, Benny, just daydreaming," Reese said, forcing a smile. He delivered the beer, the condensation leaving a damp ring on the aged wood. The afternoon crawled by, a monotonous cycle of drink orders, small talk, and the hum of the aging air conditioner. As the last of the evening's patrons stumbled out, Reese flipped the sign to "closed" and began the familiar ritual of locking up. Outside, the desert air had cooled slightly, a welcome change from the bar's stuffy atmosphere. He gazed up at the inky sky, a canvas of brilliant stars, and sighed. It was a beautiful sight, yet it only amplified his feeling of isolation. He climbed into his beat-up Ford pickup, the engine sputtering to life. The drive home was a long, solitary stretch down a desolate highway, the landscape illuminated only by the moon's silvery glow and the truck's headlights. Suddenly, a flash of vibrant blue light caught his eye. Reese slammed on the brakes, tires screeching against the asphalt. He squinted, trying to make sense of what he saw. Standing by the side of the road, bathed in the moonlight, was a woman unlike any he had ever encountered. Her skin was a striking shade of azure, her hair a cascade of shimmering silver that seemed to defy gravity. She wore a sleek, form-fitting suit of some iridescent material that shifted colors with her movements. Reese blinked, convinced he was hallucinating from exhaustion or too many hours breathing in bar fumes. But when he opened his eyes again, she was still there, her intense gaze fixed upon him. Her eyes seemed to emit a soft, otherworldly glow. He cautiously rolled down the window. Ma'am? Are you all right?" he asked, his voice wavering slightly. The woman approached, her movements graceful and deliberate. "You are, of this world?" she asked, her voice melodic with a strange, captivating accent. "I require assistance." Reese's mind raced, trying to reconcile the impossible reality before him with the mundane world he knew. I'm from around here, yeah," he stammered. "Do you need a ride or something?" She nodded, her expression urgent. "Yes. Transport would be most beneficial. I must reach a secure location. With haste." Reese hesitated. Every instinct screamed that this was insane, that he should turn around and drive away as fast as possible. But he couldn't bring himself to leave her stranded in the middle of nowhere. There was a desperate plea in her eyes that resonated with him. He unlocked the passenger door. "Hop in." As she settled into the seat, Reese caught a subtle, exotic fragrance, like a blend of ozone and blooming night flowers. He gripped the steering wheel, trying to focus on the road. "So," he ventured, "I'm Reese." "And you are?" "I am called Alara," she replied. "I thank you for your assistance, Reese of Earth." "Reese of Earth," he repeated with a nervous chuckle. "That's a new one." "So, Alara, not to be rude, but what's with the—" he gestured vaguely at her blue skin and shimmering attire. Alara tilted her head, a gesture both alien and endearing. "Ah, You refer to my dermal pigmentation? I forget it differs from your species. I am, not of your world, Reese. I come from a planet called Eternia. Reese nearly swerved off the road. I'm sorry, did you say, planet? As in, outer space? Precisely, Alara confirmed. I have traveled a great distance to escape a grave threat. I must find sanctuary here. Reese's knuckles were white as he gripped the steering wheel. Okay. So you're an alien. A blue alien who needs to hide out on Earth. This is, fine. Totally normal Thursday night. Alara's brow furrowed. You seem distressed. Is interplanetary contact not common here? Reese barked out a laugh. Not exactly, no. We're still arguing if aliens exist at all. How curious, Alara mused. Your civilization is more isolated than I realized. They drove in silence for a moment, Reese's mind reeling. Finally, he asked, so, what's this grave threat you're running from? Alara's expression darkened, her eyes hardening with a steely resolve. A tyrant named Zork, from the planet Kronos. I was to be forced into a political marriage with him, to seal an unjust treaty. I fled rather than submit to such a fate. Reese whistled low. Wow, that's heavy. So, what's your plan now? Alara hesitated, her gaze distant. I had not thought beyond escape. I require a place of concealment, and assistance in adapting to your world. They were nearing Tucson now, the city lights painting the horizon. Reese drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, weighing his options. This was crazy, beyond crazy. But something in Alara's eyes, a mixture of determination and vulnerability, tugged at him. Look, he said slowly. I've got a spare room. It's not much, but you're welcome to crash there while you figure things out. Alara's face lit up, her azure skin seeming to glow brighter. Truly. You would offer such kindness to a stranger. Reese shrugged, trying to play it cool. Well, can't exactly leave a space princess on the street, can I? I am, in your debt, Reese of Earth, Alara said solemnly. Then, her eyes widened. But, wait. Will this not draw suspicion? An unmarried male and female, cohabitating? It's the 21st century, Reese said with a dismissive wave. People don't care that much anymore. Alara nodded thoughtfully. I see. Still, to better avoid detection, perhaps we should present ourselves as a mated pair. Reese nearly choked. You mean, like, married? Is that not the Earth term? Yes. We could claim to be newlyweds. It would explain my unfamiliarity with local customs. Reese's mind reeled at the sheer absurdity of it all. Here he was, concocting a fake marriage with an honest-to-God alien princess. It was like something out of a bad sci-fi novel. And yet, a part of him thrilled at the idea. After years of monotony, his life had suddenly become the adventure he'd always dreamed of. You know what? He grinned. Why the hell not? Let's do it. As they entered the city limits, Reese glanced at Alara. We should probably get you some clothes that blend in a bit more. And maybe a hat or something to cover your hair. Alara nodded. Yes. Camouflage would be wise. Though I admit, I find Earth fashions rather perplexing. Why do you insist on covering so much of your bodies? Reese chuckled. Trust me, with some of the people around here, you should be glad for that custom. They stopped at an all-night convenience store. Reese grabbed a hoodie, sweatpants, and a baseball cap, tossing them to Alara. Here, try these on in the bathroom. I'll grab some other supplies. When Alara emerged, Reese had to stifle a laugh. The clothes were comically oversized on her slender frame, and she put the hat on backward. But at least the blue skin was mostly covered. How do I appear? Alara asked, attempting to strike a casual pose. Do I blend seamlessly with your populace? Reese grinned. You look like a college kid who raided their dad's closet. It's perfect. As they approached the checkout, the bored cashier barely glanced up from his phone. Reese breathed a sigh of relief until Alara spoke. Greetings, fellow Earth dweller, she announced. We require these goods for completely normal, non-suspicious purposes. The cashier blinked slowly, looking between them. Reese jumped in. Don't mind her, he said, forcing a laugh. She's, doing a theater thing. Method acting, you know. Whatever, man, the cashier mumbled, ringing them up. Back in the truck, Reese turned to Alara. Okay, first lesson in blending in, less is more. Just act natural. Alara nodded seriously. I shall endeavor to be more chill. Reese couldn't help but laugh. Well, it's a start. As they pulled up to his small house on the outskirts of town, the reality of the situation began to sink in. He was harboring an alien fugitive. If anyone found out. Hey, Alara, he said softly. You know this is pretty risky for me too, right? If the wrong people discover you're here. Alara placed a hand on his arm, sending a jolt through him. I understand the danger I place you in, Reese. I swear by the moons of Eternia, I will do all in my power to protect you, as you have protected me. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Reese forgot how to breathe. There was something in Alara's gaze, ancient wisdom mixed with childlike wonder, that captivated him completely. He cleared his throat. Right. Well, let's get you inside before the neighbors start gossiping about the weirdo in a hoodie on my porch. As they entered the house, Alara's eyes darted everywhere, taking in every detail. Fascinating. Your dwelling is so quaint. Reese raised an eyebrow. Quaint. Oh. I meant no offense, Alara backpedaled. It's simply quite different from the crystal spires of Eternia. But I find it most charming. Reese chuckled. Well, it's no crystal spire, but it's home. Come on, I'll show you to the spare room. As he gave her a quick tour, Alara peppered him with questions about every mundane object. The microwave was a primitive matter reconfiguration device, the TV was a rudimentary data projection system. By the time they reached the bedroom, Reese's head was spinning. And this, he said, gesturing to the bed, is where you sleep. You do sleep, right? Alara nodded. Yes. Though our sleep cycles differ. On Eternia, we require only 2 hours of rest per solar rotation. Must be nice, Reese yawned. Well, I need a full 8 hours, so I'm going to crash. We can figure out our next move in the morning. As he turned to leave, Alara caught his hand. Reese, thank you. Truly. I know not what would have become of me without your aid. Reese felt his face flush. Hey, what are fake husbands for, right? Alara's musical laugh followed him as he retreated to his room. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, Reese tried to process the insanity of the past few hours. His life had changed irrevocably, and he had no idea what tomorrow would bring. But as he drifted off to sleep, one thought kept circling in his mind: whatever happens, it's going to be one hell of an adventure. The Arizona sun had barely crept over the horizon when Reese's alarm blared. He groaned, fumbling to silence it. For a blissful moment, he thought the events of last night had been a bizarre dream. Then he heard clattering from the kitchen. Stumbling out of bed, he found Alara examining his toaster with intense fascination. She'd ditched the oversized clothes for one of his old t-shirts, which hung like a dress on her slender frame. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the morning light. Alara, Reese rubbed his eyes. What are you doing? She whirled around, eyes bright. Reese. I've been exploring your culinary devices. This one seems designed to carbonize bread slices. Quite ingenious. Reese couldn't help but chuckle. It's just a toaster. Here, let me show you how it works. As he demonstrated, Alara peppered him with questions about Earth breakfast customs. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Reese found himself grinning as he scrambled eggs and brewed coffee. So, he said between bites, what's the plan? I've got work tonight, but we should probably get you some proper clothes first. Alara nodded. Yes, camouflage is essential. And I must find a way to contact my allies on Eternia. The fate of our worlds may depend on it. Reese nearly choked on his coffee. Right, no pressure or anything. They spent the morning at a thrift store, with Reese trying to steer Alara towards inconspicuous outfits. She gravitated towards the most colorful, outlandish items, delighting in each new discovery. Ooh, Reese, what about this? She emerged from the dressing room in a neon green jumpsuit and a cowboy hat. Reese stifled a laugh. Maybe something a little more subtle. Eventually, they settled on a few simple dresses, jeans, and t-shirts. Alara insisted on keeping the cowboy hat, much to Reese's amusement. As they walked back to the truck, Reese noticed a sleek black car parked across the street. Two men in dark suits watched them intently. Alara, he muttered, don't look now, but I think we're being watched. Her posture stiffened. Describe them. Generic men in black types. Sunglasses, earpieces, not exactly blending in. Alara's voice was tense. They could be Chronosian agents. We must leave immediately. They quickened their pace, climbing into the truck. As Reese pulled away, he saw the black car start its engine. He cursed. They're following us. Take evasive action. Alara commanded. I have studied your planet's vehicular pursuit techniques. Reese raised an eyebrow. You mean you've watched action movies? Is that not accurate training? She laughed despite the tension. Not exactly. Hang on tight. Reese weaved through traffic, taking sharp turns down side streets. The black car stayed on their tail, gaining ground. Any other bright ideas? Reese asked, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Alara's eyes darted around the cab. Your communication device, can it interface with your city's infrastructure? My phone. I mean, I can look up traffic info, but... Perfect. Hand it to me. Reese passed over his smartphone. Alara's fingers flew across the screen faster than he thought possible. Suddenly, every traffic light ahead of them turned green, while red lights stopped their pursuers. Holy! Reese breathed. How did you? I simply optimized your primitive traffic control algorithms, Alara said casually. Now, head for the outskirts of the city. We need a secure location to strategize. They ended up at an abandoned gas station miles from town. As the dust settled around them, Reese turned to Alara. Okay, I think it's time you filled me in on what exactly is going on. Alara sighed, her shoulders sagging. You're right. You deserve the full truth. She took a deep breath. My home world, Eternia, has been locked in a cold war with Kronos for generations. My arranged marriage to Zork was meant to seal a peace treaty. Reese's brow furrowed. But you ran away because the treaty was a sham. Alara's eyes flashed. Zork never intended to honor it. He plans to use me to gain access to Eternia's defenses, then launch a full-scale invasion. Jesus, Reese muttered. And now his goons are after you here. Alara nodded grimly. It seems they've traced my quantum signature to your planet. We must contact my allies on Eternia and warn them of Zork's treachery. Reese ran a hand through his hair. Okay, but how? It's not like we have intergalactic cell service. A sly smile played on Alara's lips. Perhaps not. But your planet's primitive communication arrays can be repurposed. And so began a whirlwind tour of radio telescopes and satellite stations across the American Southwest. Reese drove while Alara tinkered with equipment, her alien knowledge somehow meshing with Earth technology. They broke into deserted research facilities, bypassed security systems, and hot-wired ancient antennas. It was exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly insane. At one point, Alara managed to send a fragmented message towards Eternia, using a repurposed satellite dish. Whether the message got through, they couldn't be sure. "We need to find a safer place to lie low," Reese said, as they sped down a dusty highway after their latest escapade. "Someplace where Zork's guys won't think to look." Alara frowned. "I am unfamiliar with Earth's safe havens." Reese thought for a moment. "I know a guy. An old army buddy named Jedediah. He lives way out in the desert, off the grid. He's a little eccentric, but he's trustworthy." "Eccentric is acceptable," Alara said dryly. "As long as he doesn't ask too many questions." Jedediah's place was a ramshackle collection of trailers and sheds, powered by solar panels and a wind turbine. He greeted Reese with a bear hug and a suspicious glare at Alara. "Who's the blue lady, Reese?" he asked, his voice raspy from years of smoking. "This is, my wife, Brenda," Reese said, cringing at the lie. "We just got married, and we're on our honeymoon." Jedediah raised a bushy eyebrow. "Honeymooning in the middle of nowhere? You always were a strange one, Reese." Alara stepped forward, extending her hand. "A pleasure to meet you, Jedediah. My husband has spoken highly of your hospitality." Jedediah shook her hand, his eyes widening slightly at her touch. "Well, make yourselves at home. I got a spare trailer out back. It ain't the Ritz, but it's got a roof." As they settled into the cramped trailer, Reese sighed. "Okay, so it's not exactly a 5-star hotel, but at least it's safe. For now." Alara walked to the window, peering out at the desolate landscape. "It is peaceful. I can see why you find solace here." "Solace?" Reese chuckled. "More like boredom, usually." "Perhaps your definition of solace is limited," Alara said, turning back to him. "There is a certain beauty in the solitude. A chance to reflect, to find clarity." Reese looked at her, surprised by her insight. "Maybe you're right." That night, as they sat outside under a blanket of stars, Jedediah brought out his guitar and started playing old country songs. Alara listened intently, her eyes shining in the firelight. "Your music is evocative," she said to Jedediah after he finished a particularly mournful ballad. "It speaks of loss, and longing, and the human condition." Jedediah shrugged. "Just telling stories, ma'am. Stories everyone knows." As Jedediah continued to play, Reese found himself drawn to Alara. He watched as she swayed gently to the music, her face illuminated by the flickering flames. He wondered what she was thinking, what it must be like to be so far from home, carrying the weight of an entire planet on her shoulders. He cleared his throat. "Alara, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Reese. Why did you choose me? Why did you trust me enough to bring me into all this?" Alara looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and sadness. "I saw something in you, Reese. A spark of kindness, a willingness to help someone in need. And perhaps, a touch of loneliness, a yearning for something more." Reese was taken aback by her words. He hadn't realized how transparent he was. "I don't know what to say," he mumbled. "Say nothing," Alara said softly. "Just, be yourself. That is all I ask." As the music faded and the fire died down, Reese and Alara retreated to their trailer. Lying in the darkness, separated by a thin wall, Reese couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the verge of something extraordinary. He had no idea what the future held, but he knew that he was no longer alone. He had Alara, and together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. But as he drifted off to sleep, a nagging doubt lingered in the back of his mind. Were they truly safe? Or was Zork's shadow already closing in, ready to snatch Alara away and plunge Eternia into darkness? The musty air of Jedediah's trailer hung heavy with the scent of dust and old dreams. Alara sat hunched over a tangle of wires and salvaged electronics, her brow furrowed in concentration. Rhys watched her, a mixture of awe and apprehension swirling within him. Since arriving at Jedediah's, they had been using every spare moment trying to boost the faint, fragmented signal they had sent toward Eternia. Anything? Rhys asked, his voice hushed. Alara shook her head, her silver hair swaying. The interference is significant. Your planet's electromagnetic field is a chaotic symphony compared to the harmonious frequencies of Eternia. So, no luck. Rhys sighed. Maybe that message didn't even get through in the first place. It reached them, Alara said with conviction. I can feel it. But whether they can decipher it, that is another matter. Rhys leaned against the wall, watching Alara work. He was starting to get used to the sight of her strange beauty, the azure skin and otherworldly grace that had once seemed so shocking. Now, it just felt normal. A strange new normal, but normal nonetheless. You know, he said softly, I still can't believe all this is happening. A week ago, I was just pouring beers at the Rusty Spur. Now I'm helping an alien princess save her planet. It's surreal. Alara paused, her gaze softening. And yet, you do it without hesitation. You are a true hero, Rhys of Earth. Rhys scoffed. Hero? I'm just trying to do the right thing. Besides, it's not like I had a lot going on before you showed up. Alara smiled knowingly. Perhaps fate has a way of finding those who are ready for something more. The hum of the trailer's generator filled the silence as Alara returned to her work. Rhys wandered outside, seeking refuge in the vast expanse of the desert. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple. He sat on an old wooden crate, gazing at the horizon, lost in thought. Penny for your thoughts, Rhys. Jedediah's raspy voice startled him. Rhys turned to see the old man approaching, a cigarette dangling from his lips. Just thinking about everything, he said vaguely. Jedediah chuckled. Women will do that to you. Especially the pretty blue ones. Rhys hesitated, unsure how much to reveal to Jedediah. She's going through some stuff. We're just trying to help her out. Jedediah nodded, his eyes twinkling. I figured as much. Don't worry, son. Your secret's safe with me. I've seen stranger things out here in the desert. He paused, taking a long drag from his cigarette. Just be careful, Rhys. Some things are best left undisturbed. Some secrets are too dangerous to know. Rhys frowned. What do you mean? Jedediah shrugged. Just a feeling I got. That woman, she's got a powerful aura. Like a storm brewing on the horizon. You don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Rhys couldn't shake the feeling that Jedediah knew more than he was letting on. But he also knew that the old man was fiercely protective of his privacy. He decided not to press the issue. Thanks, Jedediah, he said. I appreciate the warning. As darkness fell, Rhys returned to the trailer. Alara was still working, her face illuminated by the glow of the makeshift console she had assembled. He watched her for a moment, admiring her dedication, her unwavering determination. He knew that she was risking everything to save her planet. And he was willing to risk everything to help her. Alara, he said softly. Why don't you get some rest? I'll keep watch. She shook her head. I cannot rest, Rhys. Not while Eternia is in danger. But you need to take care of yourself, Rhys insisted. You can't run on empty. Alara hesitated, then nodded slowly. Very well. But wake me if anything changes. Reese helped her to the small cot in the corner of the trailer. As she drifted off to sleep, he sat by her side, his hand resting gently on hers. He couldn't explain the bond that had formed between them in such a short time. But he knew that it was something special, something worth fighting for. He spent the rest of the night keeping watch, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of danger. The desert was silent, save for the occasional howl of a coyote. But Reese couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. That Zork's agents were closing in. As the first rays of dawn began to paint the sky, Reese heard a faint, high-pitched whine coming from Alara's console. He leaned closer, his heart pounding in his chest. "Alara," he whispered, shaking her gently. "Alara, wake up. I think we've got something." Alara stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She sat up quickly, her senses immediately alert. She rushed to the console, her fingers flying across the controls. "It's them," she exclaimed, her voice filled with excitement. "My allies on Eternia. They received the message." Reese's heart leaped with joy. "They did? What did they say? Are they sending help?" Alara frowned. "The signal is weak, distorted. But I can make out some of the message. They warn of treachery. A traitor within the Eternian Council. Zork has spies everywhere." Reese's face fell. "A traitor? That's not good." Alara continued to decipher the message, her brow furrowed in concentration. "They say. Zork knows of my location. He is sending a force to retrieve me. We must flee, Reese. Now." Reese didn't need to be told twice. He grabbed their meager belongings, stuffing them into a backpack. Alara quickly dismantled her console, erasing any trace of their presence. "Jedediah!" Reese shouted, bursting out of the trailer. "We have to go. Now." Jedediah emerged from his trailer, his eyes wide with alarm. "What's wrong? What's going on?" "They're coming," Reese said urgently. "Zork's people. They know we're here." Jedediah didn't hesitate. He grabbed his rifle, his expression grim. "Get in the truck, Reese. I'll cover you." Reese and Alara scrambled into the truck, Reese starting the engine. Jedediah stood in front of the trailer, his rifle raised, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Go, Reese," he shouted. "Get out of here. And don't look back." Reese slammed his foot on the accelerator, the truck roaring to life. As they sped away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. Jedediah was still standing there, a lone figure silhouetted against the rising sun, his rifle raised in defiance. Reese felt a pang of guilt as they left Jedediah behind. But he knew that they had no choice. They had to protect Alara, even if it meant putting others in danger. As they raced across the desert, Reese turned to Alara. "Where do we go now? They'll be looking for us everywhere." Alara closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in concentration. "There is one place, a hidden sanctuary, known only to a few. It is far from here, deep within the mountains. But it is our only hope." Reese gripped the steering wheel, his jaw set. "Then that's where we're going. No matter what it takes." The journey was long and arduous, through treacherous mountain passes and desolate canyons. They were constantly looking over their shoulders, expecting to see Zork's forces closing in. As they drove, Alara shared stories of Eternia, of its majestic cities and its noble people. She spoke of the beauty of its landscapes, the harmony of its culture. Reese listened, captivated by her tales, his heart aching for a world he had never seen. He realized that this was more than just a mission to save a planet. It was a chance to be a part of something greater than himself. To stand up for what was right, to fight against tyranny and oppression. As they neared their destination, Alara grew more and more anxious. "We are close," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "But the path is treacherous. We must be careful. They reached a narrow, winding road that led deep into the mountains. The road was barely wide enough for the truck, and the drop-offs were sheer and unforgiving. Are you sure this is the right way? Reese asked, his voice strained. I am certain, Alara said. Have faith, Reese. We are almost there. As they rounded a bend, they saw it. A hidden valley, nestled deep within the mountains, shrouded in mist and mystery. In the center of the valley stood a cluster of ancient stone buildings, their roofs covered in moss and vines. This is it, Alara said, her voice filled with awe. The sanctuary of the ancients. We are safe, for now. Reese steered the truck into the valley, his heart filled with hope. They had made it. They had found a refuge from the storm. But he knew that their journey was far from over. Zork was still out there, and he would stop at nothing to capture Alara and conquer Eternia. As they stepped out of the truck, a figure emerged from the shadows. An old woman, her face etched with wisdom and compassion, her eyes shining with an inner light. Welcome, Alara, she said, her voice gentle but firm. We have been expecting you. Alara bowed her head. Elder Lyra, she said respectfully. I have come seeking sanctuary. My planet is in danger. Elder Lyra smiled. We know, child. The stars have whispered of your plight. Come. We will help you prepare for the battle ahead. As Reese and Alara followed Elder Lyra into the sanctuary, Reese knew that they had found more than just a safe haven. They had found allies, and guidance, and a renewed sense of purpose. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They were ready to fight for Eternia. And they were ready to win.